from Tel Aviv, the headlines this hour. The IDF moves deeper into Rafah after taking complete control of the border between Gaza and Egypt. A cruise missile apparently fired from Iraq is shot down over the Golan Heights. And Sweden backs up a claim by the Mossad that Iran is using criminal gangs to attack Israeli, Jewish and Iranian dissident targets inside Europe. The group Palestinian Islamic Jihad has published a second video in as many days of hostage Sasha Trufanov. Sasha was seized from kibbutz near Oz on October 7th. It is unclear when the video was made. Well, with me in the studio this hour, Professor Uzi Rabi is the director of the Moshe Dayan Center for Middle East Studies and a senior researcher at the Center for Iranian Studies, both at Tel Aviv University. Thank you very much for being with us, Professor. And let's talk about what's happening in Gaza. The long-awaited battle for Rafah is underway. Israel has taken control of the entire border crossing with Egypt. Just talk us through how that changes things in terms of strategy.
Well, in my opinion, this is kind of a strategic move because it is well known that Rafah, and especially tunnels, which do cross actually the border from Egypt to Gaza and vice versa, this is part and parcel of their lifeline.
Well, the IDF shot down a cruise missile that was most likely fired from Iraq earlier today. It came down over the Golan Heights. There's been no claim of responsibility from the Iranian-backed militias responsible for previous such attacks that have mostly targeted Israel's Red Sea city of Eilat. Well, to talk more about that, we're joined by Michael P. Pregent, US Army veteran who served for many years in Iraq. Thank you very much indeed for being with us, Michael. And after quieting down for a little while, are we now seeing a sign that these Iranian-backed militias in Iraq are ready and prepared to step up direct attacks on Israel?
Thanks for having me. They've wanted to do this for a long time. Qasem Soleimani put the land bridge in place in Iraq to run through Syria into Lebanon and eventually to threaten the entire Levant to include Israel. So what we're seeing now is Qasem Soleimani's plan. Of course, he was killed on January 20th. Of 2020, January 2nd.
Welcome back. China's President Xi Jinping has called for a peace conference for Gaza and has reiterated his support for the creation of a Palestinian state. Delegations from 22 Arab states are convening in Beijing, among them Egypt's President El-Sisi, Emirati President bin Zayed and Tunisia's President Sayed. It's China's latest attempt at deepening its influence in the region, as our Middle East correspondent Ariel Osseran explains.
With the war raging in the Middle East, China is flexing its diplomatic influence in the region. Speaking at the China-Arab States Cooperation Forum in Beijing on Thursday, Chinese President Xi Jinping called for a peace conference in the Middle East.
Since last October, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict has escalated drastically, throwing people into immense suffering. War should not continue indefinitely. Justice should not be absent forever.
Addressing the leaders of Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Tunisia, along with some foreign ministers from Arab League nations, Xi reiterated China's support for the two-state solution.
Well, Sweden has backed up a claim by Israel's Mossad agency that Iran is using criminal gangs to attack Jewish, Israeli and Iranian dissident targets in Europe. The Mossad began an investigation after an explosive device was found inside the grounds of the Israeli embassy in Stockholm back in January. The leader of a Swedish crime gang, Rafah Majid, known as the Kurdish Fox, had been working with Iran for months, according to the Mossad. He was recruited by Iranian agents after he fled to Iran from Turkey. Well, to talk more about that, we're joined by Iranian human rights activist Vahid Beheshti. Good to see you again, Vahid. And you've been warning about this, haven't you, for a long time now. Is this a sign European authorities are finally beginning to take the threat from Iran inside their own countries more seriously?
Thank you for having me here, Laura, because they don't have any other choice than taking the threat seriously, because this is an existential threat to their civilizations, their cultures, their values. And this is why we have been camped in front of UK Foreign Office for 463 days today. This is why I came to Israel to warn the Israeli ministers, and I'm really glad, I'm really happy Israel for the first time standing strong against these terrorists and doing the right job. And this is why I went to Washington, D.C. and warned the different officers in there about this existential threat. This is not the result of last year and 2 years and 3 years before. This is the result of 35 years at least constant work of Iranian regime.
Now, a Kurdish doctor who spent weeks treating the wounded in hospitals in Gaza has given an interview to the Kurdish news network Rudo about his experience there. Take a listen.
والله حماس طبعا وكو ري خراويتي سياسي سربازي بيويستي بواهيكوا استغلالي هموش ينفكا بو معنى ووجيغي فاتي ويان طبعا بدافعهم كم كم بتشايفون كوا لخص خانه كان مثلا بكاري يبو سرنوي سركردەکانی حماس
يعني ئەوەی کە ئیسرائیل لێ ڕاستە سەرکردەکانی حماس نەخۆشخانەکان وەک قەڵغانی مرۆیی بەکارێنن بۆ خۆیان
بەڵێ بە چاوی خۆم بینیم ئەو شتەکە.
That was Dr. Bakhtiyar Baram. He works with the Norwegian Association, and there in that interview he said he saw with his own eyes how Hamas operatives hide in hospitals in Gaza. He also said that civilians are suffering terribly and are being exploited by Gazan mafias. Well, to talk more about that, we're joined by Entifad Kambar. He's the president of the Kurdish Protection Action Committee and the former spokesman for the Deputy Prime Minister of Iraq. Good to see you again, Entifad. And a wide-ranging interview there. Dr. Baram spoke, didn't he, about how he tried to help the people in Gaza. He really wanted to help people and relieve their suffering, but his Kurdish surname was a bit of a problem for him. Why the animosity?
Well, I tell you one thing, Laura. I myself went and lived through this. As an Iraqi who came to the United States young in 1990, I worked in the Iraqi opposition against Saddam.
Now, even as Israel's fighting in Gaza, is it now facing the threat of an attack from another front? This from Iranian-linked militias in Iraq. IDF air defense systems today intercepted over the Golan Heights what appears to have been a cruise missile launched from Iraq. No group has claimed credit for the strike, but over the past few months, the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, that is a coalition of Iranian-backed militia groups, has claimed credit for several drone attacks on Eilat, one of them damaging a naval base there. But this is the first time those groups would have launched a missile attack on northern Israel, a potentially dangerous escalation. Well, joining us now for more is retired U.S. Army Colonel Rich Outzen, a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and a geopolitical consultant for Dragoman LLC. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Rich, thanks for joining us. First of all, give us a sense of the military capabilities of those Iraqi militias there. How much does Israel have to fear from them? A cruise missile is a serious weapon to successfully fire from there to northern Israel.